Hello, everybody, and welcome to Breakfast All Day. I'm Matt. That's Christy. That's Alonso. And oh my God, look over here. The man, the myth, the legend. He is alive. He has not suffered from the coronavirus yet. Ben Mankiewicz has joined us. We found him.
Great to be here, guys. I always feel like I'm just away briefly, but I realize it's been like 9 months.
It's been a year. Can I even say it's been a year? Because the last time we were all together, I was living in my old place in LA.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right. I have not seen your new place. That's right.
It looks like this. If you can see my background, that's the beach that's 10 minutes walk from my house that I can't go to.
It looks closer.
It's really, you can reach out and touch it. There it is.
You're the uncle we're always happy to see, Ben.
Please come see me. Yeah, Ben, we're so happy to see you, Ben.
But you can't go see Christy. We have to social
distance. That's true. Yes. Once things get normal again. So we'll begin our coronavirus update. But Ben, how are you doing? Are you good? Are you busy? Are you crazed?
Yeah, we were, it's been almost busier for TCM, doing a lot of stuff online, which has been, really well received by TCM fans. We did moved our festival home, the home version of the festival. And that was really successful, of course, and exposed it to a lot of people who wouldn't otherwise have been able to go to the festival. It was so successful that I imagine that some version of that is probably going to happen every year also.
Because it was just too convenient to do it that way?
It was convenient and it was just well received. I mean, of course, we get thousands of people at the festival, but I mean, there are thousands of people who can't travel, too expensive, can't do it. So it was great. And we're going to, we're going to try and be a little more thoughtful about the content that we provide online. I mean, I don't know whether, engagement online translates ever into dollars, but
it's the question we're all asking ourselves.
That's right. Yeah,
it's brand building.
You guys got to be careful though with that festival though, because if you're going to do it online and at a location, AMC is going to have none of it.
What do you mean AMC?
No, right. AMC, not the channel.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Ben, tell us about your hit new podcast.
Yeah. So first of all, it's called The Plot Thickens, which is going to be the sort of umbrella term of TCM's storytelling, umbrella title of TCM's storytelling podcasting. And then season 1 is I'm Still Peter Bogdanovich. And Peter and I are... I got friends, and I used that to get him to do a podcast. And my idea for the podcast was taken over by professional storytellers and completely redone and turned upside down and shaken out. And in a shocking development, it became 50 billion times better. So it's just this is a great collaborative effort. I've done I was a journalist and television journalist, which is, there's tons of collaboration, but this was great. This was a really refreshing experience for me. It was so nice, and these people were so smart. And it's sort of the story of Peter's life. He was every bit Scorsese, Friedkin, Mike Nichols, Coppola from 71 to 73. And then he made 3 straight flops. And Hollywood reveled in his failure because he was perceived as arrogant and a know-it-all, in part because I think he was arrogant and a know-it-all. But that's sort of who he is, and he doesn't mean it that way. And he's changed also. And then right as he sort of was coming back, made a really good film, Saint Jack, which is one of my favorite of his films. And then he has this horrible tragedy where the woman he loves and he's going to marry is murdered horribly and publicly. And that just threw him off the rails. And then he lost all his money and in an effort to buy back the film, and made another series of strange decisions, almost sued, I think, Paramount. It might be Universal. I can't remember, for Mask, just for switching the music. And he just was sort of this great director. He's still great. He's still so smart. And now he's sort of thoughtful and introspective, and he's always funny. And he's this living connection to classic Hollywood, interviewed extensive interviews with these, he's got this book, Who the Devil Made It, where he interviews 14 of the, greatest directors to ever live, and plus Ford and Wells, so 16 in all. And he imitates these guys. And so his story is really compelling. And it's also sort of a story of the new Hollywood and how vicious Hollywood can be, and how arrogant directors can be, and how they fall in love with their leading ladies and leave their wives. I mean, it's all Peter's story is all of their stories.
And it's interesting because he started his career like talking to these sort of elder directors at the end of their careers. And so now he's that guy. He's the elder statesman. And so you're sitting down with him is kind of a cool way to keep that chain going.
So Peter Bogdanovich, born in 1939, right? Hollywood's greatest year. And then as soon as you say that, Peter will say 40 and 41 were much better. And here's what, right? And he has almost not none, because he and Ben Gazzara were friends, and he has a couple of friends his age, but he really has no contemporary friends. His friends when he'd be on this podcast now. I mean, if he were young now, I mean, he's doing what we did. He was a journalist and then a critic. That's how he became a director. And when he was 30 and 33 and directing, Last Picture Show and What's Up, Doc and Paper Moon, all his friends were John Ford and then soon after Orson Welles and Howard Hawks and Cary Grant, and nobody from his age, and they all mostly really didn't like him. And then now his closest friends are Wes Anderson and Rian Johnson and Quentin Tarantino. Like he is now, it is, as Alonso said, it's been completely reversed. He's an incredibly interesting guy. I really like him, and he was really honest about the good stuff and the bad stuff.
So has that begun? Like, can people listen to that now? Is it out?
Yeah, for, Tuesday, the 28th of April, episodes 1 and 2 became available. I'm trying very hard not to use the word dropped. And then every Tuesday there'll be another episode, and plus bonus material, and it's doing really well. It's very good. It really is. It's good.
Well, you're a good interviewer, so I'm sure he appreciated sparring with you. So I'm sure that was a lot of fun for both of you.
Real quick, it's and I learned this. I learned it really in the first half hour. We did about 15 hours of interviews, Peter and I, and it's just a different process. Like here, you try and say something funny, clever, and in front of a crowd, you would try to make people laugh. But when you're doing these interviews, right, you gotta shut up. Like you have to let them have that moment, and that was a challenge for me. It is a different interview.
Oh, we know.
Yeah.
But they have stories to tell, right? Like Peter Bogdanovich is a raconteur. He's got stories to tell, and you've got to give him the space to do that and not get in the way.
That's right. And let him be emotional. And it's okay. There's silence is okay. Like here, you don't want awkward silence, but there it's okay because it's going to go away in editing. Anyway, it was fun. I liked it. Cool. I think every movie fan will enjoy that podcast. Thanks.
Cool. Well, that's a good thing to do while we're all stuck. Ben, what we do here at the beginning these days is we do a little coronavirus update where we talk about what all is going on in the industry, how it's changing. And the big news this week is coming out of the Academy. The thing that we expected that they would do is that they've made this decision to allow streaming films to qualify for Oscar consideration. And they have expanded the cities in which you can do your Oscar qualifying run beyond just, four-walling it in Los Angeles for a week. Like it's New York and San Francisco, I want to say Miami, Dallas, a whole bunch of other cities.
Oh, wow. I think New York already qualified, but yeah, those other ones are new. Sorry.
And in a great controversial move, they've also combined the two sound categories. So for people who could never tell the difference between sound mixing and sound editing, now they don't have to, right? So they're all, and I guess like the sound people wanted to do this, and others think this is a travesty and it's dumbing down and like.
So I would never have had an opinion on this, and in fact, I would have agreed with them, except that like literally in our sort of congratulatory calls this week for the podcast, like we made special note of, listen, the sound design, what you guys did totally was, and it's different than the sound editing. It's totally different. But they did design a feel and for this podcast. So this is an outrage.
I, for one, am outraged.
Yeah.
So so that is the big thing. Also, film-wise, a whole bunch of film festivals, Berlin, Cannes, Toronto, Venice, New York Film Festival, Tribeca, and more are teaming up for this giant online thing called We Are One, a global film festival, and that begins May 29th. So like all those films that maybe, were intended to be shown someplace now you can actually see them. Like we have been able to see South by Southwest films in a couple different places, but now I think all of them are just looking ahead to the fall festival season. Like, look, we don't know what it's going to look like.
Although, like the Amazon thing with South by Southwest, I don't think they got any American narratives finally. Like it basically ended up being docs, foreign features, and shorts. And that's fine. And there's a lot of great stuff in those categories. But I think it's interesting that the nobody who made an American narrative was like, yeah, sure, let's screen it for free on Amazon, even for this limited window under the South by Southwest umbrella. It's like, yeah, we're gonna wait and do our thing.
I wonder how much of that is distributors and potential distributors still worried about for the narrative films. Totally that'll have on, similar to what Universal's arguing with. We'll get to that story in a minute, but we do want to remember to talk about our marquees today.
Oh, yes. Right. Yes, there are marquees. Do you want to do those now? Many. Do you want? I'm sorry, I just went into
That's
news.
Okay.
Should we do marquees? Do you want to do marquees now and go back to news? What do you guys think?
Yeah. Well, so since we have so many, I want to make sure we get to them. Sure. Because we have, so Ben, as you may know, we've been asking our audience to send us pictures of clever movie marquees as the various theaters around the country are closed. I missed some of them last week. So between this past week and the week before, we have about 18 pictures. And if
you're not listening to this on YouTube or watching it on YouTube, you're really missing the visual component here.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to share my screen.
So fun.
And let's see. All right, here we go. There we go.
This is way more we need to see here. Oh, that's cute.
All right, so this is the Center Theater in Bangor, Maine. This is actually, you guys haven't seen this, but this is the picture that's actually opened up the clip today. But had to lead off with the big one. Dug this off the Bangor news site. Stay wicked, fa pot. Apparently they're using road construction signs like the way we have them on the things on the freeways, the signs on the freeways. They're using those in Maine as well to tell people to stay wicked, fa pot.
That's cute.
I instantly read that as a double feature. I mean, I got it before you explained it, but I was like, stay wicked, fa a pot. I'm like, what is stay wicked? I'm like,
Turkish film?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Maybe it's stay fa and wicked a pot.
That's right. Totally. That's right. Yeah.
All right.
That's good. That's
all right.
Good.
So the next couple of pictures are from our good friend, Tom Ford.
Yay.
A Tom Ford, as he likes to say, not the Tom Ford.
Exactly. The Tom Ford who can button his shirt is what Dave calls him.
So this is the United Artists Theater, the
Ace Hotel.
And formerly the United Artists Theater, right?
Right.
In downtown Los Angeles.
It's such a beautiful theater.
So they'll be right back after these messages. The Orpheum Theater, they've gone fishing. It's another one from Tom Ford. And then the third one from Tom is the Wiltern. Be kind, stay healthy. Go to wiltern.com.
Wiltern's where I went to the last concert I went to before all this happened, which was Silver Sun Pickups in early February.
Oh, nice.
A great place to see a show. The Wiltern.
I think that's the last. I saw Little Stephen and the Disciples of Soul there. I think that was definitely the last concert I went to. So yeah, I think that would be the same thing. Yeah.
Okay. Next picture comes from Twitter user Unenthused, whose name says Matt Stays Home. This is the Manor Theater in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They are hopefully temporarily closed. Then Patrick Stevenson from Northern California sent us a couple of pictures. This is the Uptown Theater in Napa, telling us to stay safe and we'll be back soon. Patrick then made his way to Vallejo, showing us the Empress Theater. Stay safe, but remember, follow us on social media. And what we've asked people to do, Ben, is if they are driving around and they see fun things on their marquee, take a picture. But to clearly
don't do anything risky.
Now, David Price this is David Price from Santa Cruz. He's a little farther south. This is an exciting, Lysol injections, UV suppositories.
At the Rio.
Right?
That's amazing.
Right?
What a sarcastic marquee.
A sarky, as it were.
Yes, they're just kidding.
Right.
This
nasty. I think would be the maybe this is the sequel to the Serbian film. Maybe.
Oh,
You guys know that one? All right. Next one. This is from Veneta, Oklahoma, from Taylor Tryon. It didn't give us the name of the theater, but they're telling us to stay safe, be healthy. Now, this next picture is the Uptown Theater in Minneapolis. And we previously showed you the part that said, "I assure you we're not open." One of our fans who talks to us on Facebook a lot, Katie Lee Robinson, sent us this more expanded picture that references the end of Ferris Bueller or Deadpool, if you never saw Ferris.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Right. And then
it's just cool seeing what all these theaters look like, because
right.
I mean, in Los Angeles we have so many that are just these kind of generic multiplexes, and so like to see these theaters that seem to have either occupied spaces that weren't intended to be movie theaters or still kind of keeping it old school. Like, these are just gorgeous.
You know, it's funny, Alonso, you mentioned that. I was going to try and find a theater marquee that was an AMC theater that referenced something so that we could talk about the AMC news. AMC they're all these big multiplexes and they're not using these old school marquees anymore.
No.
All right. So Jeff Swanson, also from Minneapolis, sent us this other side of the Uptown marquee.
That's
takeout movies only. So they've got all kinds of stuff happening. And I know, Christy, you had mentioned when we brought this up a couple weeks ago that the Uptown Theater in Minneapolis is supposed to be a gorgeous theater.
Well, they're famous for their really clever marquees. So whatever movie is playing, they'll have something really, really funny to say about it on the marquee. So
yeah. So this next one is a series of pictures. We asked for people to give us their stuff, their pictures from their local theaters. Micah Anthony, he's from Atlanta, Georgia, but sent us a series of pictures from the Colonial Theater in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, that is doing a contest, and you can actually submit fun marquees. So he sent us 4 pictures, Some Like It Sanitized, the classic film, now showing Don't Stand By Me, Glove Actually. This sounds like a safe sex advice marquee as well. And then a double feature, The Dark Knight Rises and Honey, I Washed My Hands.
That's amazing.
Right?
That's the best. That wins.
We have 3 more coming up, and I think I've saved the best for last. This one is from D.R. Martin of Minneapolis. He sends us a picture from the Riverview Theater. Just keep swimming. Good advice. Very sweet. Next one, Michael Polsey from downtown West Bend, Wisconsin, sent us longest intermission ever.
What I like, first of all, the best part of that, by the way, is downtown West Bend, Wisconsin. Right? Like, you don't want to, right? I mean, because you really want, if you're in West Bend, you don't want to mess around in the outskirts of town. You want to get, downtown where it's really happening.
That's why I made sure to have that note so that when we brought it up, everyone knew.
Right.
Downtown.
Oh, this is downtown.
Okay.
All right, great. Yeah.
So this last one is from Vancouver, Washington, not Canada, across the river from Portland, I believe.
That's right. Yeah.
This is the Kiggins Theater that has gone all in on Tom Cruise. Being an outsider is risky business, but all the right moves are to stay far and away with a cocktail night and day to avoid oblivion.
Wow.
That is legendary.
Right?
Very cute. There has to be some kind of Mission Impossible pun to be had here, right?
Right. The Ghost Protocol is being an outsider. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's very cute.
Follow Ghost Protocol and don't be a rogue nation.
Right? All right. So that's it. Those are our marquees for this week. So
those are
thanks,
great.
everybody. As a reminder, you are welcome to hit us on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, all the places. Send us your fun marquees, and it's a nice little activity to lighten up all of this crazy news that we.
So, going back to the Academy real quick, I have a question. Do we think that studios are going to stream their sort of awards baity movie for a 1 or 2 week window at the end of the year just to get it into the calendar year, and then maybe sit on it until they can get a wider theatrical? I mean,
something like Tenet, that Christopher Nolan's going to want people to see Tenet the way it's meant to be seen, right?
Sure.
So, I mean, do you stream it just to be safe, and then if and when things get normal, do you allow screenings to occur where it's just 25% capacity of the screening room, not a packed Directors Guild house like you would have ordinarily? I don't know.
Well,
I'm just wondering, like in the way that you would open a movie for a week in, like, late December, and then do like a big push in February or something. Like, will they just like, okay, we'll have it streaming, and then we'll take it away from streaming, and then
I mean, that's somewhat the modern kind of marketing point of the Academy Awards, right? Is that you have these platform releases, these limited releases that come out in December, and if they win the Academy Award, if something does, then it gets a wider release, or if they get nominated, the studios use that to push. So I could absolutely see a studio doing, a 2 or 3 day even special event to stream it live, or not live, but stream it, and then, with the intention that it'll be a big movie. I mean, I could see them doing that potentially with a summer movie, right? Especially if they did it. The question is, I don't know if the Academy rules say that it has to be, the availability for streaming has to be a certain time.
So let me ask a question, because the additional cities, that seems like for a different year. That seems irrelevant for this year, right? I mean, that's irrelevant to the streaming issue, right?
I think what they're thinking is they want to try to get it into as many eyeballs as possible, if and when screening rooms can open again.
Well,
so
I think
they're making
also,
that possible elsewhere.
I suspect they're also hedging their bets, right? Because they've already, for instance, like if we remember a couple of years back, they had said, okay, you don't have to get your movie reviewed in the New York Times, right? Or LA Times. Like that used to be one of the qualifiers. And they don't do that anymore. I think in this particular case, they're hedging their bets with the idea that two of the, New York City's got more cases than anyone else. And LA is a large major metropolitan area that has a fair amount of lockdown happening. But if someplace like Dallas opens up, or Atlanta,
I was going to say that's somewhere like Dallas or Atlanta that's less strict about the
okay, that makes sense, right? So that's what it is that they can still. The question, the relevant question, whether this lasts just this season. Or whether it goes in, like, is this a permanent rule change? Is it going to be hard to go back?
So they've also hedged their bets on that, right? Because they said specifically, like, this is right now for this year only, until things return to some sense of normalcy. But the other part of this is that they're not going to be sending out screening DVDs anymore. And by 2021, they're going to have some Academy-specific members-only streaming service.
Right.
Well, but there's a lot of other people that get those screeners, all the guilds and all the critics groups, and so
so the Academy may not send out the screeners, but I suspect they'll still be there.
Yes.
We got to
get to money. Can we get?
Yeah. Sorry, really quick. I'm going to bet money that at some point the Academy is going to say, somebody at the Academy is going to try and throw their weight around and say, if you send DVD screeners out, then. Like
you also have to send them to us.
Or no, it's going to be the opposite. Like the way they play around with like letting somebody appear on some other award show, but then can't appear as a host on the Oscars. They'll say, maybe it's something like, if you send screeners out, we're not going to qualify your movie, or you won't, like, there'll be some kind of like, oh no, we're going to push everybody around.
Can we move on?
Sure.
Please.
Thank you. I want to make sure we get to the AMC Universal thing, because it's really important. It's what everyone was talking about all week long. So the head of Universal says, wow, Trolls made $100 million and we get to keep all that money. We don't have to share. He didn't say that. I'm paraphrasing. But we don't have to share with the theaters. And so we're going to stream everything. Yes, Matt.
Really quick. I'm sorry. I just want to put that in perspective. That first week of release, it made more money for the studio than the entire release of the first Trolls movie in theaters.
Yes. So they're happy about that. And so they want to keep capitalizing on that. They're like, this is a viable solution here. We're going to ponder streaming everything from now on. AMC, on the verge of bankruptcy, AMC, they get pissy, and the CEO sends a quote-unquote strongly worded letter saying basically that they're going to take their ball and go home. They will never show any Universal movies ever again. The AMC and Regal will not show Universal movies. So they say, I'm curious to find out if that's going to be the case next spring when the new Fast and Furious movie comes out, for example.
Exactly.
So there's this whole pissing match between AMC and Universal, which is hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, the theater chains, I think they have been able to throw their weight around about the issue of streaming and windows before. We've talked about this before. When Tower Heist came out, whichever studio that was wanted to either like shorten the window or make it day and date or something, and enough of the theater chains were like, the hell you are, and put their foot down, and they sort of backed off of it. But now, given how we don't know when the theaters are going to reopen, combined with we don't know if AMC is going to be solvent at the end of the year. Like, I don't think AMC is in a position to threaten anybody right now, frankly, nope. Given that they're staring down the barrel of bankruptcy.
It's super complicated though, because and I know some of this from having like looked at the ticketing business in the last year or so at MoviePhone. AMC did kind of what some people thought it was going to do, which is they, first of all, this was like right in response to Universal saying, oh, we're going to move forward with day and date releases. If they hadn't said that, this wouldn't have happened, right? It's really like, oh no, we're not going to let you do this. And then Cineworld, which is the European owner of Regal, immediately said the same thing. Now, those are the two biggest exhibitors in the US. Cinemark is the third, and between the three of those companies, they have something like 60% of the theaters in the US alone. So if they get Cinemark on board, then they do have a certain amount of weight. And I have to imagine that from the standpoint of a company about to go Chapter 11, they kind of have to do everything they can to show potential new investors that there is some value in the brand and not just kind of capitulate and say, well,
sure, yeah,
right? Because the other thing we've seen this last week is when Universal said, oh, we made all this, like before Universal said, we're looking at day and date releases, they had been crowing about this monstrous amount of money that they had made with the Trolls release and record setting, like everybody does with box office releases. And immediately the National Association of Theater Owners released a study that says that shorter windows don't actually help the DVD window. So the professional association is also behind this. It's gonna. I think this fight is far from over.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't matter what this. I mean, look, there's only one choice right now. So this is all posturing. Lawyers and executives will work this out if they want to work it out. It's a dumb thing for the head of for the Universal head, Jeff Shell, to say, just because it's provocative. That's all, and it's pointlessly provocative. But none of it matters now because there's no decision to make. Everything's going to be streamed right now if you want to release your movie. So when the time comes, they'll work something out. But obviously, when you have a shock to the system like this, whatever it looks like when we come back, it's going to look a little different, right? The market has unquestionably changed.
Right, and
now
Texas reopened today, including movie theaters, which can function at 25% capacity. So I'd be curious to see if any of you guys out there live in Texas, let us know if you went to the movies today or this weekend and how it looked. I'm curious to know.
Yeah, because I think the chain said, like, when Georgia reopened, like, look, we aren't ready to reopen yet. So if anything is open at this point, it's probably something that's independently owned and operated.
Yes, a few other things also streaming. DragCon, RuPaul's DragCon was supposed to have been this weekend at the LA Convention Center. That is now streaming on World of Wonders YouTube channel. Also, speaking of Texas, Alamo Drafthouse said that they will not be reopening. So although Texas theaters can open, Alamo, based in Austin, will not be opening its theaters just yet. They're waiting until it feels safer. I think that's very smart. Also in LA, not reopening is Amoeba. So when things finally open, Amoeba will be in their new home on Hollywood Boulevard. And so like a lot of folks are kind of sad about that because that was a really amazing destination.
Yeah.
What else is of note? Ben, you will like this, or maybe you won't. For the first time, I think ever, the Baseball Hall of Fame induction has been postponed.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I hadn't actually, but I mean,
And this was the year they were going to let Pete Rose in.
Well, you know what it is? You know what it is, Matt? Is that Derek Jeter was getting in this year. And there was this concern about this massive influx of people up to Cooperstown from New York City.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's in August. I mean, of course they have
July, right?
Well,
that's July 2021 now. So there's that. There is a thing going on tonight this big 24-hour call to unite. Starts at 5 p.m. our time. It's Oprah and Julia Roberts, Quincy Jones, Alanis Morissette. It's this giant fundraiser live stream on YouTube, Twitter. There's a whole Sirius XM channel for it. What
if Quincy Jones is in, I'm out.
He knows why.
What else is of note? There's a really cool thing that the LA Opera is doing. It's if you go to laopera.org, their opera singers are performing recitals in their living rooms. And so you can see like their dog in the background or their kid walking by, or if someone will play the piano and sing, and sort of it makes the idea of opera seem accessible and less daunting. Like here's this art form that might seem kind of highfalutin or too sophisticated or inaccessible. And it's just like a person singing in their living room. So it's a cool way to see
Neighbors in the
opera
apartment
for free,
complex are like,
right? Like, we know you can sing.
Well, there was for my daughter's, schooling at home or remote learning. But one of the videos they sent, music's a big part of my daughter's school. And I don't remember, it was like Amsterdam Philharmonic Orchestra. It was some European orchestra of significant.
Philharmonic.
But they did a beautiful thing, and so the sort of music that kids respond to, and they do it all from their homes and then put it together. So, it starts with the violin, and they go, and then the screen keeps expanding as more people keep coming in. It's really, and then the result, it's incredibly powerful, and they're so good. It sounded fantastic.
Well, one of the things I have on my list along those lines is Crowded House did a version of Don't Dream It's Over like that. Like they each recorded their parts and sent the recordings back and forth to each other and layered them all in, and it sounds really great. And it's like,
did you see the Backstreet Boys do I Want It That Way?
Oh, sobbing. I mean, sobbing watching that. I'm like, why am I fucking crying watching the Backstreet Boys? But I was, because that happens. LeBron James is doing a big thing to honor the class of 2020, all these kids who are graduating who can't go to prom or, walk in their graduation. It's called Graduate Together. It's on May 16th. It's going to air live on all 4 major TV networks and Facebook and YouTube. Yes, Matt?
I just had a terrific idea on how to bring back sports partially.
Okay.
Remote horse.
Oh, remote horse.
They're doing that.
That's right. They're doing it. Somebody.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah. They're somebody beat somebody badly. Shut somebody up.
Chris Paul did it. Wasn't Chris Paul doing it?
And I think he lost. He lost to like Zach LaVine. Chris Paul got horse. Zach LaVine had nothing. Yeah.
So
yes, this is really sad that I know this. So this is a whole thing. It's like Pharrell, the Jonas Brothers, Ben Platt, Megan Rapinoe, like this whole cross section of people. So that is a thing to know about. What else?
There's a story here at Deadline that it's obvious, I guess, but from the sort of British Union, the Assistant Directors Branch at the Union BEC2, about restarting the rules that are going to go, the difficulties that productions are going to have restarting both television and film, and that there is almost certainly going to be a coronavirus compliance officer there, and that that declarations from cast and crew, that catering, transportation, how hair, makeup, costume design should interact, drama perhaps the most difficult, because that the attempt, part of this will be social distancing rules for actors perhaps, and so there's
a good LA Times piece where they talk to a lot of directors and cinematographers and different people about what coming back is going to look like, what hurdles are going to have to be, accomplished. And yeah, like nobody knows, there's been a few smaller, like indie people like, oh, we're going to sequester the cast and crew together for 2 weeks. And then, but nobody knows.
Right. And we've all seen like a big change in how porn is being produced, I think, with the social distancing.
Are we all seeing that, Matt?
We're all seeing that.
Go on.
All of us are seeing that.
Good luck with your OnlyFans. Like, I think you're probably you're better at monologuing. I'll just say.
But this is a 50-page memo from the union about all the things that would have to go into account. And then the same thing that sports is experiencing too, which is the hesitancy to proceed. There are owners worried about liability. Should somebody, they're worried about it. They can probably get it. The unions can probably wipe that away with some commitment for the, obviously for the league or their to pay for anything related to that. But, you know, what about anybody else? What about the people who clean the floors? What about, you know, obviously if you let fans back in, that's one reason why fans are very unlikely to come back anytime soon, because of the liability that owners would face. I mean, if you put signs everywhere and say, if you're exposed to COVID-19 while you're here, you know, are we off the hook, right? I mean, I imagine theater owners are worried about that too. Liability for anybody who's paying is a big issue, and is of course a big issue in restarting television and movie
memo at
productions.
all address like the pileup of scheduling that'll happen for people? Like, you know, you might be slated to do lighting for movie A and then a couple months later do movie B, but both of those shoots have been delayed. And so if in October movie C starts, but then movie A and B are also like, oh, hey, we need to go in production too. Like, right. What happened?
So they said many layers of new processes in this that could be necessary for shoots to resume safely in an environment where there may be waves of new COVID-19 outbreaks. So obviously one problem obviously creates 10 more problems down the road.
Well, and also, like, I think for a lot of guild members, they get their insurance through the DGA or the SAG or whatever, but that's contingent upon like hours worked or number of productions or whatever. And so, like, if nothing is being produced, then are they all getting kicked off, or are they all staying on? Like, you know, there's a lot of different issues that we're going to be seeing unlocked over the next year.
You guys have probably discussed this, but have you gone back, speaking of there being no productions, have you guys all gone back to some old show that you love?
Not really, just because like I'm still like between this show and the other podcasts I do, I'm still watching like 3 or 4 new movies a week and like keeping up with the shows that we're recapping.
I will say I've taken this opportunity to go back, and I'm now almost at the end of the 4th season of The Wire. And yes,
good.
Always good.
Believe the hype, it is the best show ever on television.
Is this your first time seeing it?
Never had watched it.
Oh, that's great.
Wow.
Yeah. Like I put the first episode on, like, well, let's see how it is. And then suddenly it's midnight. I'm like, oh, I'm just finished episode 5.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a special show. I have it ranked second, but I hear you. It's
after what?
After The Sopranos. I still think The Sopranos wins, but I think The Sopranos and The Wire and Deadwood are in still a league of their own, even though we're filled with great shows. I mean,
I'm still doing a monthly column about DVDs and Blu-rays, and it's currently on thespool.net, and I just got sent from Paramount. They're about to release The Complete Gunsmoke.
Oh, wow. Nice.
You know, which before The Simpsons was like the longest running show ever, like 20
years. Yeah.
And I just looked at that. I looked at it, I thought, that's a podcast. Somebody is going to do a fucking podcast where they watch all of Gunsmoke start to finish. It's not going to be me.
I've been watching a little of The Fugitive, but mostly because we got my daughter into it enough. And, you know, there's only so much Gilligan's Island, Brady Bunch, and Bewitched a man can take. Cheers. And and it is special, man. It is so good. So good. I mean, she misses most of the jokes, but it is electric. And those performers are so good.
I've cycled through the Mary Tyler Moore Show several times in my adult life.
Cheers does something that even a great, great show, and don't get me wrong, I'm not going to tell you anything negative about the Mary Tyler Moore Show. It was perfect. But Cheers, they have this constant movement happening. Like, people aren't sitting around waiting for the joke, and then they don't wait for the laugh to die down to deliver their lines. The characters laugh at other people's jokes. And it is you realize how that's just not done. You know, on Friends, nobody laughed. They just waited and then laid in with their own singer.
It's a different kind of energy for sure.
Yeah.
Let me just do a couple quick things if I may.
Yes.
So The King of Staten Island, this Judd Apatow movie starring Pete Davidson, it's kind of based on Pete Davidson's life somewhat, was supposed to open South by Southwest. It's now going to open digitally on June 12th. That is up a week from its previously scheduled release.
And that's another Universal film, right? I believe.
I think it might be.
I think I think he owns his Universal. Yeah, that's for sure.
And nobody's buying these. It's not like you have to buy them, right? All these.
Well, like
releases.
Trolls was like a 48-hour rental, and it was $19.99.
Yeah.
So if you want to watch it again, it's $20 more bucks.
All the Universal stuff has been 48-hour rentals for $20. So The Hunt, Invisible Man, Emma, but like Paramount and other, like whoever had Bloodshot and The Way Back, those have been, I think, purchases.
Okay, let me do one more thing. There's this really great Twitter feed called, it's at Rate My Skype Room. Rate My Skype Room. It's these people in Washington, D.C., a guy and a girl, a man and a woman, and they look at, like, it started out with like Washington political talking heads, right? It's like Ashley Parker and Neil Katyal and people that you see on MSNBC every night. And it's like rating what they have in their backgrounds, like the fern placement or how the books are arranged on the bookshelf. And it rates on a scale of 1 to 10. It's so funny. And people actually will change their backgrounds based on how their rating is, hoping to get it bumped up from like a 3 to a 6. Hillary Clinton actually got a 9 and then retweeted that and had made a funny joke about that. So
I think on this show, I think I win.
I have a beach.
I'm in Riverdale.
You're wearing a beanie, Alonso. That's what your picture looks like.
It does look like a beanie. That's true.
Oh, funny.
I have an authentic Bobby Kennedy bumper sticker.
I think you would get a good one because you have a nice wide variety of books there, and you have pictures and memorabilia. So they'd probably like yours a lot.
When I was shooting for TCM, I have had 2 locations, one, and then over there, and one Studio A is right there. Studio B is sort of in front of this desk that I'm at. So with this same background, a little further away. And their only suggestion was, clean it up a little bit. And so sort of the, where is it? Is it right here? Yeah. So, everybody I knew growing up has the rise and fall of the Third Reich. It's, William Shire's definitive biography analysis of Germany from like 33 to 45. It's amazing, but it's an amazing book. But if they were
with a giant swastika,
they're like, the swastika is a little prominent. But in the other shot, one of the posters that we've cleared that I can hang is Where Eagles Dare. Richard Burton and Clint Eastwood, which is a silly movie, but it's exciting. It's a solid adventure. Clint Eastwood
and lots of Nazis get shot in that movie.
Lots of Nazis get shot.
That offsets.
But they got it has a famous, what do you call it? A gondola, right? There's a big gondola scene in that. And the gondola has a giant swastika on it. So no matter which shot I had, and I was like, it's okay. Like the Jews will know that yeah, I'm with you. Like these are Nazis bad, right? But nonetheless, they were like, could you, just for one of the shots, could you please cover that one up? So
did they send you decals of the little red circle with the slash through it?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right. One last thing. I got to say hi to Sophia Bruno in Nick's class. Sophia B, 4th grader, is a fan of Breakfast All Day.
Hi, Sophia.
Hi, Sophia. And it's the cutest thing. She told Nick, she's like, I hope your mom keeps doing her podcast because if she doesn't, I just die.
No, that's
isn't that cute? So we've got 10-year-old fans. I'm sorry for all the cursing, Sophia.
Yes. I want to throw out real quick, by the way, if you're watching or listening to this today, May 1st, for May Day, there is a general strike going on at a lot of Trader Joe's, Whole Foods locations, also Amazon and Instacart. So these folks are not getting neither the pay nor the PPE that they need to do the work they're doing. So if you can boycott those places today, please do. Obviously, if your SNAP benefits kicked in today and you've got to go use them, go do it.
All right. So that's it for our news wrap up. Ben, we're so happy to have had you here. There was a shitload of news. Ben, we're so happy to have you here for our little news breakdown. Come on back. Come see us again. We're fun.
And if you want more, Ben, we're talking about Homeland season 8 on Patreon today.
Oh, yes. So do enjoy the Patreon. And thanks to all you guys who have been listening and enjoying our Last Dance recaps. We're going to do another one next week with Kelvin Washington. So tune in for that. And Alonso, do the spiel.
Real quick, if you would like Ben to join us more often, you can reach out to him. His phone number is...
And if you're not following Ben on Twitter, if this little glimpse of his house wasn't enough, you get Studio A and B. It's very exciting.
That's right, A and B, and you get a lot of my daughter. My friend Teresa Strasser wrote a book years ago called "Exploiting My Baby." She's like, hey man, I got to make money in this business, and I had a kid, and so I've recognized that you can exploit your 7-year-old too to advance your career. If I got to teach her then for crying out loud, she's going to help pay the bills.
She's a pip. And in a few years, she'll be like, no, Dad, I don't want to be in your dumb video. So, enjoy it while it lasts. Hey, everybody, thanks for watching. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on all the social medias at BeFastAllDay, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And again, check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. We're recapping Westworld and the Plot Against America. Ben and I are going to talk about season 8 of Homeland. And this week, we have a subscriber choice. We gave you all a choice of classic films for us to watch. You determined that we should be watching The Wicker Man, which turned out to be the perfect Mayday movie. And so we'll be talking about the original 1973 Christopher Lee classic on Off the Menu. So thanks, you guys. We'll see you next time.